That tells you a little about the other ones you couldn't read yet.
Unfortunately, Amber can't be with us today, and at this so he normally introduces our program, but I don't think Charan needs much introduction as a member of our community and such a servant to the community. Charan, would you like to come up and speak to us today?
Sure, thank you. Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it. And on the note of graduations, Ridgeview High School graduates tonight at 7 o'clock, if those of you would like to try and make that. And Redmond High School graduates on Friday, also at 7 o'clock. The students at Ridgeview have gathered about $1.1 million in scholarships this year, which is exciting. Wow. And the students at Redmond High School have gathered $2.1 million.
Wow.
So quite a bit of money for our kids going out to the community. We're excited about what's been going on at the school district and the work that we're doing. I prepared a nice PowerPoint for you, but unfortunately we are having technical issues. We're going to try this one more time, but if not, my presentation has a lot of pictures because we're talking about bonds and we're talking about facilities, and it's easier to see that sometimes than to talk about it. Unfortunately, it hasn't been working. So we're going to give it a shot, see how we do. All right, so it sounds like several of you want to talk about things beyond the bond as well. And so, it might hold steady. But we'll start with the bond, just so you kind of know where that's coming from. And this is just an informational campaign. The bond proposal is still in development. We've been going through a process for the last 6 months with community members, with doing facilities work, with doing community surveys, to find out what it is that people would like to have in a bond. So why now? Well, we've got a bond that's going off the books that built Tom McCall Elementary and Elton Gregory Middle School. And so because that bond is retiring, we have an opportunity right now to be able to pass a bond without raising anybody's taxes. It's what's called a continuation bond. And so we go through and we pass that using the exact same amount of cost per thousand to everybody. We could raise about $97 million for our districts and be able to really make it a generational investment into these buildings. That's why we're going in that right now. The next time we get the opportunity to pass a bond without raising taxes is 2036. So that's a very long time from now, another 14 years. If you take a look at this little chart here, it kind of shows the bond step down, what that looks like. Our current tax rates are here, as you can see, the blue. In terms of bonds, what will happen in this year is this blue bond, or what would be here, drops off, and then the bond we go to run fills in the gap, and then as it progresses out here, that fills it again. You can see again, in 2038, it drops, and somebody could try, whoever runs the place then, it won't be me, but 2038, whoever runs the place then can try again for another bond. Schools are extraordinarily expensive to keep around. We have over 1 million square feet in the district. We have 13 schools with thousands of children running through them. And if you ever had lots of teenagers in your house, you know how destructive they can be. And so we have to build things strong. We have to remodel them. And they're very, very large spaces. And so this is what we're looking at. Again, it's about a $97 million ask. But it doesn't raise anybody's taxes. It doesn't raise the amount you're paying right now. That's kind of the idea. That's why we're going for that right now. Any questions for me on that?
Yeah,
the timing? Yeah, go.
Just a general question. Are
Yeah.
you looking forward to air conditioning for current home residents? I mean, schools?
So we don't have air conditioning in most of our schools.
That's what I thought.
Simply because, one, they're enormous spaces, and two, we're not there during the summer, or the kids aren't, right? We have some of our offices air conditioned because we have people who work there all summer long, but the students aren't there. So we are looking at air conditioning in 2 buildings as part of this, Terrebonne Elementary School and Sage Elementary School, because both of those buildings have an upstairs, and those upstairs get really hot. And because of that, we would then center our summer programs in those schools. So I'll kind of go through the project list here in just a second. And feel free to interrupt me with questions anytime. And we have a miracle this thing's working now. So So again, as we do our facilities assessment and we look around the district what we need, we've added up about $300 million worth of need. So we have lots and lots of things that we could work on. So the question is, how do we best spend the $97 million? How do we prioritize that, right? When do we go through that? So we do that a couple different ways. We hire outside facilitators who do assessments of our buildings. We have a very long list of everything that needs to get fixed in our building, from down to a motor and a heating system, to walls that need to get painted, to all kinds of stuff. We have it pretty well laid out, and that's updated fairly consistently by contractors. We have our facility staff that is, of course, always observing the work, always observing what's working, what's not working, what needs to get work together. We have the preferences of our teachers and our staff. What would they like fixed? What do they need to make their work better? So we take all that information, we put it in a giant list of stuff, and then we have brought in a community bond committee. And this was about 30 members of the community, folks that we called in, trying to represent as many different points of view as we could get on that. And we asked those folks to prioritize what it is that they would like to see fixed in our district. We just got done doing another community survey, listening to what people had to say out there. We will bring a final proposal to our board on June 26th. The board will do a final vote of what we'll do. So it's a very open, very public process as we go through that. A lot of people feel like that somehow it's hidden in the dark or done in the back room somewhere, and really it's as open as we can make it, trying to get a sense of what people need and what the building will work on. So here's some of the things that have come to the top. We have a lot of general repair of the schools that need to get done. Parking lots are not an overly sexy thing that needs to get done, but we have parking lots that are failing across the district, and that means you dig up the parking lot and you have to put in new rock base and you have to build over it. Those things have to get done. They cost a lot of money. Some of them can just be chip sealed and save that way, but we have a lot of parking lot work that needs to get done. We just kind of have general repair that needs to get done all over the place. The issues at RHS, which I'm going to talk about in more detail, have jumped to the top as really being the major issues that we have in the district. I'll dig into that deeper in just a few minutes. We also like to look at turning Tumalo School back into a K-8 community school. Currently it's a K-5. Students that are in K-8 there, if we have 30 fifth grade students, only about 10 of those students will end up coming to Obsidian Middle School. The rest go off to Ben schools. Having students and student count right now is extraordinarily important. So we'd like to build that into a little magnet school out there that attracts a lot of folks into that area. Tumalo School is a very expensive school to run based on class size ratios, and so the idea is to make that a very attractive place for people to come. We just put an investment into the ropes course out there, making that a district resource, and kids can go out and do rope course and get team building through that. It's pretty neat. We need to do some major renovations to Lynch Elementary. You recall, I think they tried to run a bond in 2018, and the goal was to replace Lynch Elementary School. And ideally, we would still like to tear it down and replace it, but the cost of construction of schools has skyrocketed. I mean, it's skyrocketed. I built some buildings right before I came to get this job, and I built some pretty neat buildings at $391 a square foot. And that seemed astronomical to me at the time, even though I was trying to beat $450 a square foot, which is the going rate. Going rate right now on school construction, start to finish, is $1,000 a square foot. Right? Right? Unbelievable. So replacing the school has become an unaffordable thing. We can't do it. We just can't do it. It would cost $60 million to replace the one building. Just can't do it. So we're going to renovate it. Yeah.
Any idea, if you recall, how much Ridgeview cost per square foot when we built that?
I don't, but I know the entire building was built for about $90 million. I know that if I built Ridgeview today, it would cost us $250 million.
Jeez. Wow.
And I can just say that because there's schools kind of like Ridgeview getting built, some fancy schools getting built over in the valley, and they're just unbelievably expensive. No, when the community of Redmond got Ridgeview, that was a bargain price. You guys got that for the best price I've ever seen any school, anywhere. It's pretty amazing. It's a great building to keep around and important. Anyway, we have a lot of schools that need repairs to their HVAC systems, including Ridgeview, actually. Redmond High School needs major repairs, but we have that work needs to happen all over the place. Just this summer, from the 2020 bond, I'm putting $5 million into Hugh Hartman Elementary School. We're doing revamping there. We're going to put some money into Redmond High School's system this year. This is called the dry side. I don't know if you guys know anything about heating, but there's a wet side, which is the boiler and the hot water that goes in, and then there's the dry side, and that's the part where the hot water goes into a heat exchanger and fans blow over it and it heats the air, right? So we're working on the dry side this summer, replacing fans, putting in ductwork, that kind of thing. And we got about $2.5 million, and that's from the 2020 bond that we're doing with that. We're always working to increase our security around the district. We just made huge investments in 2020 bond in school security. Everything from new fencing to Obsidian Middle School. We moved an entire office complex to change how people get in and out of the building. We put in automatic locks in all the doors. Just a lot of things to really increase the school security. Completely upgraded our camera systems everywhere. Camera systems we have now are kind of crazy amazing. You can type into it, I need to find a kid in the yellow coat at about this time period, and the computer will find it for you. And it's just kind of amazing. I've been working with some of that security. It's very data intense, so it takes pretty powerful computers to make it work. Anyway, but we need to keep increasing that work, keep adding fencing, keep keeping the kids safe as possible, trying to make sure that we don't have, when outside threats are coming to the school, the kids are safe in there. And unfortunately, that is just the reality of our lives. Finally, you may not know this, but the school district is the largest user of water, or domestic user of water, in the Redmond area. We use about 8% of the water. And most of that is used for field water, keeping the grass green, in the summertime. Same reason everybody else uses a lot of water. And so we're trying to figure out how to decrease the amount of water that we're using. We think it's a public service to the community that we are only using our own share. And we have big areas of grass that we just don't use for anything. And if we just quit watering them, you should hear the phones light up with people complaining about how the place looks. That's pretty real. Our fields, though, our playing fields are the most important areas. We have to keep those things soft throughout the summer, because when kids go back to play on them in the fall, if they're hard, they become dangerous. People get hurt on them, they break ankles, they fall down, that kind of thing. So we're putting in a proposal to actually turf our varsity fields, put in a different kind of thing. If you've been out the Jayqua Field complex outside of Hugh Hartman, that was kind of our test case on that. We sold a piece of land to the company, to Wild Mike's Pizza, to building it. We used the profit from that, plus a lot of people donating stuff, to build out one of the largest pieces of turf in Oregon, and certainly in Central Oregon. And it's just been a place we have kids out there playing on it constantly. Really works well.
So would I work on the football field as well too then? Or?
Say that again, please.
You said turfing the field.
Yeah, turfing both football fields at both high schools.
That would be nice.
And then replacing the tracks at both the high schools and the middle schools.
So would Ridgeview have a turf baseball field as well too then? Or?
We're not sure we can afford that. Ideally, we'd like to do football and baseball and softball, kind of the varsity fields. That would be ideal. But we're trying to squeeze a lot of things into 97 building. So we'll see how it all flies out. But we'd like to save as much water as we could. So here's just an artist's conception of what it could look out at Tumalo. This is not a final plan. It's just kind of what it might look like. If you've been to Tumalo School, this is the old part, this little gray part up front. This part that's 100 years old. People love Tumalo School. I think it's kind of Frankenstein school. It's got stuff just kind of stuck into it all over the place. And so we're going to just bolt something else on. And so we're looking at developing this middle school area over here. It'd have basically a dedicated school classroom for a 6th, 7th, 8th, and then a purpose-built science classroom. To do that, we would have to expand the cafeteria by moving the kitchen. So that's kind of what that looks like. That's about $10 million. Do that. We'd like to add ILS classrooms. That's independent living skills. For those of you who know ILS, that's our special ed students that are the most impacted, that need the most help. We don't currently have purpose-built bathrooms at Lynch right now. We have to bathroom some of our kids. They need a lot of extra help. And we don't currently have those over there. It's pretty troublesome for staff. It's pretty troublesome for students. So we want to build out that space. We have a really dedicated, purposely built independent living skills situation with properly appointed bathrooms. So that's one of the goals. So let's talk about Redmond High for a second. Redmond High, as we've done our assessments, had really risen to the top as needing a lot of work, a lot of things that we need to do. And they come in a bunch of different areas. Our first issue has to do with piping. And I'll give you that in just a second. We also need roofs. We need to take out asbestos. We need to improve our career tech ed classrooms out there. The way we currently have our programs divided up between Redmond High and Ridgeview is what they would call, when they designed it, I guess they thought of those as sort of white-collar career tech ed classes and more the blue-collar at Redmond High. I don't really love that distinction, but that's the way they look at it. Redmond High has our construction classes in it. It has our manufacturing classes in it. It has our ag classes. It has our what else do they have out there? We got business. What's that? Oh, auto shop. Thank you. Our teachers have just knocked it out of the park. Kids love the programs. They're very full. The area is becoming, we need more space. And so part of what we want to do with the career tech ed classes is refresh those classrooms, add more space to them. We're looking at a purpose-built ag space, do some work there. When they remodeled Redmond High, they remodeled half of Redmond High School when they built Ridgeview. And then they did what they call the academic wing. Those of you who are familiar with the school, if you walk into the common space. Everything to the left was remodeled back in 2012. Everything to the right wasn't touched. And so we really want to look at touching the stuff to the right. That means upgrading the theaters, upgrading the music practice spaces. The locker rooms out there are just a cry against humanity. They're horrible. They need to get remodeled. And then, like I talked about, redoing a lot of our athletic fields, replace the track that work out there. Here, though, is the major problem, which has been in the newspapers. We really only discovered this as we started digging into fixing the dry side. Currently at Redmond High, we have to run the boilers 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So when it's 110 degrees out there, we still have to fire our boilers up. Now, normally in the school district, you shut your boilers down in like April or May. You turn them back on in October. You save a bunch of power that way, right? But the way that the pipes are at Redmond High is if you shut them down, they shrink. And then they start leaking water all over the place. And it's got this rust inhibitor in it, and it looks like goo, like pink goo. It kind of goes down all over the place and causes a lot of damage. So we've got some real problems over there. That piping is over 50 years old. We've done a lot of remodeling, and it's really difficult to get to. For those of you that know Redmond High School, if you can picture yourself walking into the common space, you're in that common space. If you look up, there's a drop ceiling. Above that drop ceiling is this. Okay? And what you've got here, you can kind of see it. You can kind of see this white part way in the corner. Those are the pipes. Those are the heating pipes. They're called a four-pipe system. Takes the hot water out, brings the cold water back. This is a hung ceiling, which means this is hung off of the roof. There's nowhere to put a ladder between those two. There's no place to do that. Therefore, to take this out, we have to take out that entire drop ceiling to replace all those pipes. The whole thing's got to come out. We've got to bring lifts up and to do it. All that gray stuff is asbestos fireproof. All that fireproofing's got to get taken out as part of that. That's a big job. Between the roof, the pipes, and the asbestos, it's about $19 million. And it will take about a year to complete, which means that building can't have students in it for a year. Right? Huge problem. Huge problem.
Dr. Cline, how about not doing the whole thing at once, doing it in portions? So
a couple things with that. First off, as soon as we cut one part, we have to reattach it to something else. The second thing, every time you bring a company in and you take them out, there's a setup fee, there's a return fee. It astronomically drives the cost of the project up. Yeah. So how do we close the school for a year? Well, we set up shop out on the back field. We bring in portable classrooms. You can rent those things, and we set them up. We set up a big tent. We have a big circus tent that we bought during COVID for outside learning, and we'll set that up for kids to have a common space. We'll figure out how to use part of the gym for a cafeteria. We've asked the students about the idea of, well, what if we hauled you all over to Ridgeview for a year? I had you go to school mostly over there. Save us about $2.8 million, by the way, to do that. Neither the students nor the parents we've talked to are very excited about that idea. The kids really like their school. They like their programs. They want to be at their school. They don't really want to be at the other school for a year. And logistically, it would be difficult. I mean, it would be because we're still going to be able to keep the career tech ed classes open during that time period because we can isolate that part, to Roland's question. We can isolate that part for a little while and do it in different sections so we can still use those spaces. What, am I done at one? Okay, I'll talk faster. So anyway, let's move on with that. You can see kind of what that would look like. Again, that's just an artist's conception of what that might be. We've got the trailers on the back as we're doing the work in the front. It'll be unpleasant for a year, no doubt about it. This is a fairly common way high schools are redone all over the country. Yep.
Are we still able to adequately support the ILS student needs in that format?
Yep, of course. Still support them. We'll just have their own space as we work through that. Lots of long ramps, which is important anyway. You got to have it there. Again, replacing that roof, heating pipes, approximately $19 million. Doing the renovations at the high school in terms of the theater, the music, the common space, the whole thing, kitchen. That's about $20 million. So out of a $97 million bond, at least $40 million goes into Red Benign.
I'm going to guess that the theater would be an asbestos sink as well.
Oh, yeah. You should see that up there. You walk up there, and there's just asbestos everywhere. We have to take a lot of asbestos out or encapsulate it however we can.
Right. You're covering asbestos in the previous paragraph, right?
Yeah.
And then renovating is something more.
Oh, renovating something more, but asbestos would get taken out as part of the renovations.
Remediation.
Yep, remediated. So our timeline on this whole project, you can see where we're at right now. We started back in November with a community bond planning team. We did a bunch of assessments. We did a bunch of surveys. We talked to a lot of folks. As you know, we put out an idea of, well, what if we just did some work we built a Career Tech Ed Center over at Ridgeview, and we just moved all the kids over there permanently and created one larger high school. We did some listening sessions on that. Even though we did a survey, where a lot of community members like that, we did listening sessions, and it was not a popular idea. And we realized pretty quickly that it's not something we could get passed in a vote, even though it would be more efficient, and in my mind, gives the kids a better education over time. But it's not what folks want, so that's not what we're going to do. So instead, we're going to look at trying to renovate both schools and keep both schools going as smaller schools over time. Okay, so that's my basic brief presentation. Why don't we just open it up for questions? And let's talk bond first, and then anything else you want to talk about.
The repair that you're doing for those pipes, is it just putting in new pipes, or are we changing the system?
No, the system, right now, the system is planned to keep the same. Simply because the boilers are only 7 years old. Boiler systems are really, really efficient it's 100,000 square feet. And it's got big open spaces, gyms, commons areas, theaters. We are talking with BASX, though, to get some of their ideas on other ways to get it done.
Will we be able to shut them off in the summertime once this is?
Oh, once it's done, yeah. Yeah, once it's done, the boiler system will operate like a normal system.
Okay.
Yeah. I have been in a school one time. I've both worked in a school and then renovated an elementary school one time where we had the same problem, and we bypassed it and we put individual heating units in every single building, every single classroom. And it sounded great, but holy moly, it was hard because it would break down individually all the time. They'd be too noisy. And when you find those individual units, they all last about 20 years. And then 20 years, they all have to get replaced. And so boiler systems last for a very long period of time if they're properly cared for. Yeah?
We're hearing about a lot of school districts having operational budget issues. How is Redmond faring?
So we have cut $4 million for next year, and that's based on lower enrollment, on the higher raises we had to give our staff last year. Staff got a very significant wage increase last year, which we had to do because they were really low in terms of being competitive across the state. So we gave them a raise there, and then we've lost some federal funds. So we've taken about a $4 million cut. I think that our district has managed it very well. We ended up cutting about 16 jobs, but between retirements and being able to move people around, I think only one person actually lost a job. We found other places for people to be. But then we did a lot of cuts to other things. We cut technology budgets. We've cut training budgets. We've cut curriculum purchases. We trimmed out a lot of stuff to get to that $4 million. We're hopeful that the legislature will help us out next year and give us a little more money to work with. I mean, if you look around the state, Silver Falls ran out of money before their school year even ended. Newburgh has done the same. We know that Portland had to repass their levy because they get an extra levy beyond what we get paid by a long shot. And they're having to cut $40 million. Salem is laying off 400 people as they've gone through that. So we're seeing that kind of across the state. I think that we've been able to manage this in a productive way. I think that we've done it as well as anybody, but it's still going to hurt.
How about travel costs for like athletics? We moved back into the IMC, mostly Central Oregon teams. Did that help?
Not at all.
Compared to previous years?
Not at all. Not at all. And the reason isn't because of proximity. The reason is because we have such a bus driver shortage. We can't actually find people to drive the buses for team trips, and so we end up having to hire charter companies. And we are $60,000 over budget in athletic travel this year, and we don't get any reimbursement for that in the state. Your regular buses that pick kids up, we get 70% reimbursement on that. The federal thing, you don't get anything for athletic travel. And so we're trying to figure out, I keep telling my folks, I'd really rather pay local people $60,000 than pay some company $60,000. So we're trying to figure out how to incentivize those trips to try and get more people to drive. But bus driver shortages are true all over the nation, really. And here we're feeling that pretty hard. I will say next year that people are clamoring to work for the Redmond School District. We have great applications for every job that we put out, a lot of really qualified folks. We just had a middle school band teacher retire, and we got 15 good applications for that job. That's pretty well unheard of, including the guy that had been at Summit for 25 years. I'm not quite sure he wanted to teach middle school band, but we got a lot of apps. And we're finding that people I think we're building a good reputation, and people do want to work for us.
So you don't have a lot of open positions right now?
No, I think in terms of turnover, we have some special ed turnover, but during COVID, we across the state, we hired a lot of people who were unlicensed for that. At this point, all of our teachers are properly licensed. We got folks working on that. We're trying to get people with the right expertise, working with some of our kids who have the most need.
So we can look forward to a bond being on the levy or on the ballot this fall?
Yeah, we'll see a bond in November on it. I hope all of you can support it. Again, my role is I'm not actually allowed to try and convince you of it. I do my best to educate you. We will be putting together a PAC, a political action committee, to pass this. Jennifer Stevens, if you know Jennifer, has agreed to act as our PAC chair. Looking for people who would like to be involved in helping us raise some money and advertise and let people know what we're up to. Could use a little extra help if anybody's got some time or interest. Yeah?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you. We had your jazz band at our vendors dinner, and in the second year, I think, now in a row, and they did a great job, and you should be commended. Those kids are good kids.
Our jazz band, I've been in this business, this is my 29th year, and I've heard a lot of high school bands over the years, and a lot. And I will say that our jazz band is as good as band as I've heard anywhere.
Yeah,
they're really doing a good job. Yeah. Our teacher, I assume was the Ridgeview one?
No, Redmond.
Oh, the Redmond.
Was that Redmond?
The Redmond. Well, you should listen to Ridgeview's too. They're really good. I'm very pleased with the work our music teachers are doing.
Yeah, no, they're great.
Yeah.
How does urban renewal affect your budget?
It doesn't really, in that, the big thing, of course, is that the way taxes work to pay for schools is we have a couple of bodies of money that it comes from. The number one place it comes from is the state school fund, and that is developed out of the income taxes that everybody pays across the state of Oregon. Then we also have local property taxes. You see that on your property bill. And what the state of Oregon does is, because that's so different, property values are so different from one place to another, is there's an equalization formula across the state. So if I got 50% of my funds from local property taxes, I would only get 50% of state school fund. If I get 20% of my funds from local property taxes, then I get 80% from state school fund. So with urban renewal, for instance, when they don't charge taxes for a period of 3 to 5 years on businesses getting built in there, we don't receive any tax revenue from them. But in the global thing, it just puts less money into the whole system. It doesn't really change how we are at the building level.
So when your school board, or our school board, approved an enterprise zone, then you're getting the money from the state, so you don't take a hit. The fire department's taking a hit, you don't take a hit.
That's true. That is true. But
makes me more upset.
but we actually, and I don't know when that happened, but I will tell you that it actually doesn't do you any good. So it doesn't make you feel any better. They just did a limitation on the enterprise zones of how long you can get in there. The economic development, which I'm on the economic development board, by the way, was working hard on trying to reduce the amount the school would charge on that, and region-wide, the schools went minimum on that. So, but next time that kind of thing's up, fire board and school board should talk.
We tried, because we weren't supporting it, because what was the dollar increase? I don't remember now.
Well, I think I'm out of time. Is there? I'll stick around for a few minutes if he wants to ask me questions afterwards.
A whole other side of this that you get to talk about is our school population.
Oh yeah.
And it's fascinating. We might have to have you come back.
Well, I can talk. You guys want to talk about demographics? I can talk about demographics all day. It's what's going on in the United States, and actually across the industrialized world is pretty interesting. I don't know if you're watching, but birth rates are falling worldwide, especially in industrialized countries. South Korea at this point is the lowest by a long shot. Replacement rate for people in any area is at 2.1 births per couple, if you will. South Korea, I think, is at 1.1 right now. I think the United States is at 1.6. And so really, the population is getting older, less people are getting born, which says a lot about what happens as all of us we're in Social Security, we're in retirements, that kind of stuff. A lot of expense at the top, and not a lot of money, people with money at the bottom. So that's a problem. I will say that we just did a demographic study, which I'm happy to share with anybody that would like to see it. And we're looking at residents remaining about the same. It'll increase about 5% over the next 10 years, which is actually really good compared to the state. The state is predicting a 9% drop in the next 10 years.
And that's
Oregon,
school kids.
That's school kids. Oregon has one of the lowest birth rates in the nation.
You're going to really appreciate this. A Coke pen from Kiwanis Club. I'd like you to sport it at your Rotary meetings. Thank you very much. We so appreciate it.
I'll hang out for a few minutes if anyone wants to ask any other questions. Thank you.
So guys, I won't be here next week. Ron is going to be covering for me. I was told to remind you to tip your servers, and don't forget the surveys. We are running a little bit low because we're not answering our surveys, so please do that. In honor of Charan, who I believe does this on a daily basis for our education system, intelligence plus character, that is the true goal of education. And with that,
We're done.
thank you.